Every parent wants a very safe, a very kind or nurturing environment for their child, but we also have to I suppose give a reality check with the parents to say, yes, that is ideal. We do want an environment that is inclusive, an environment that allows your child to contribute, but at the same time, can you think as an employer, how would you speak to your child? And some are very honest, I will fire him. Yeah.
Hi and welcome to our brand new podcast, Quiet Ripples, a podcast where we meet everyday Singaporeans doing extraordinary things for fellow Singaporeans. Today we have Jamie and Francis from the Trampolene, so you can say hi.
Hi, hello.
Alright, let's just jump right in. Maybe Francis and Jamie, you can introduce yourselves first.
Ladies first.
I'm Jamie. I've been a droplet at Trampolene for slightly more than 2 years. Yeah, but very exciting journey so far, seeing how the trainees come in with maybe a little bit less knowledge on how to apply for a job, and then seeing where they are 2 years later. It's a nice journey to be on.
Job coach is a very broad term from what I understand. But maybe we'll come to that. And Francis, maybe on you?
Okay. So I'm the founder for Trampolene. So we founded Trampolene about 9 years back with a group of volunteers from Agents A-Star. All right. So that's where our journey began. We from volunteering, and after we started the project, we realized that we had to continue. That's why we founded Trampolene to continue this journey, and hence we have come to these days. Yeah.
Okay. And let's talk about Trampolene. What is Trampolene all about?
Okay. So Trampolene, the name is inspired by our president Taman. So in one of the symposium, the hosts were actually mocking Singapore for not having a social welfare, a social network system. Then he mentioned that we don't believe in social welfare, we believe in social trampoline. The concept is that any one of us can fall through or may fall through or need a help in our life journey. So when there's someone fall through the gap, we give them a lift up. That's why it's called trampoline, and we quite like the concept because any one of us will have time where we need others to come to our help. So we see this as a community effort to get someone to move forward, to have a life. That's why we find the name Trampolene, and that's precisely what we do.
What sets Trampolene apart?
Okay, so we are probably the one of the few organizations that are targeting one group of adult we call neurodiverse. They are either autism, ADHD, or dyslexia, and tertiary educators. So they are all very, very high functioning, capable of achieving potential like you and me. But they also have very obvious barrier that our natural society poses them. And hence we started in this journey because we saw that this is a gap, and then we started coming in and to address it. And when we work on it, we are looking from a strength-based perspective rather than a disability focus. So to us, whether they are diagnosed or not, whether they have autism, ADHD or dyslexia, it helps for us to know more as a reference point of what are the strengths and potential challenges with this attribute in the society before us. And then from there, we start to see where they want to go, all right? And for example, if they are very systematic, they need a lot of clarity, going to a very creative job it's going to be very tough.
Okay, so on this job employment, maybe I'll go to job coach.
Yeah.
Maybe you can explain a little bit about what you do at Trampolene with a little bit more detail.
Okay, it's pretty varied in a sense that when they first come in, we will do the initial assessment. So to get to know them, their strengths, their challenges that they might face when they're at work. We meet their families as well to have an idea of what their goals would be, whether their goals are aligned. Yeah. After the assessment, if they do decide to come on board our program, that's when we go into the more specifics, right? So the training, what are some things that you need to be employable? We call them critical skills. Yeah, so things that I think for a lot of our young adults, they always think that what I need is just a technical skill. Yeah, so if I'm going into a biotech industry, I just need to know how to run a lab. But what interviewers are really looking out for, typically the critical skills, right? Are you able to manage your time? Are you able to follow SOPs? And these are things that actually can be transferred across different jobs. But it's difficult for some of our young adults to see because I studied all the way. I studied a degree in biotech, so my degree should be enough. So after that, after the training period, we start sending them out for career fairs, interviews, sometimes work trials, so that the interviewers or the employers can see them in action. They get to judge them not just based on their ability to communicate, but whether they can do the task. Yeah, so in a work trial, what happens is that you could have maybe 2 to 4 hours of what a typical day would look like at work. They get to try out the task. Yeah, and from there, the employer can assess like, hey, actually you're pretty good at this task. You might not be so fluent in your conversation, but you're really good at doing the task, and that's how they come on board. They hire them. Yeah, after they are able to get the jobs, of course, we prepare the employer to bring our person with special needs into the company. Sometimes employers can be a little bit nervous. A very honest question that they ask us is sometimes, will they punch me? Will they get angry? Yeah, so very honest questions because I think that is the experience of people with special needs. So another role that we have is kind of showing them and advocating, right, to say like, hey, everybody is different. Like us, right, we all have our different traits. We all have different strengths, different qualities. So it's being able to recognize that and say, okay, so for you particularly, how do you communicate in a way that works for you? So that is for the sharing with the employer.
Are all these companies, so you source for these companies for them, or do they come to you with like say a company that they want to work for but they don't know how to get in?
We have a mix actually, so we are constantly knocking on different companies' doors. Unfortunately, it might take quite a while to build that relationship. We understand that some companies are a little bit wary, so they might say, okay, we'll try one candidate first. And once they feel a little bit more confident, maybe the candidate has worked for about a year, they say, okay, let's bring in another 3, for example. Some candidates do have very specific ideas of like, oh, I want to work at Microsoft, or oh, I want to, but I think that is when we step in to highlight to them that, it's not about just working for that one company. When you are employable, when you have these skills, you can work anywhere. Yeah, any employer will want to hire you because you have the skills to do it.
So you talk about the employment aspect, and so I understand you help your clients with different aspects, like the skills, their daily skills, and things like you mentioned just now, like banking in a check. Maybe let's talk about that.
We actually had one of our trainees, when he got his very first paycheck, I asked him whether he received it, and he was like, yes. And I said, okay, so what have you done with it? Did you put it in the bank? And he said, no, I kept it in my drawer. Yeah, so it's really walking them through things that you might assume is common sense for most people, but you realize, hey, these are concepts which they totally have not experienced before. Yeah, so you have to work out with them, like, okay, do you have a bank account? Which bank can you go to? Where exactly is the place that you deposit a check? I'll take a photo so that you know where to put it in. How do I check that my money has been cashed in? Yeah, so that would be one aspect that we go through. Other things that we cover, we actually have a program on Saturdays called Project Valor. So what we do is that we bring them out, expose them to different activities. Some of the things that we do would be like supermarket challenges. So that would be useful, right? Because in a sense, I give you a budget. And with this budget, you have a list of items, you have to go and find them. But this would be useful for, say, when they have to prepare their own meals, maybe you have to buy something for the family next time. Having this weekly program and getting them used to the idea of, hey, I can do these things independently, or with a little bit of scaffolding, I'm able to do that. I think that really helps them.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's really about human potential and how you develop a human who wanted to have certain performance target from point A, how to get to point B. It's really about that.
So I think at this stage, is there a gauge whether like the levels or severity of the condition that you will say, will you reject them, or will you say maybe you need more help?
I guess what we would look at is how work ready they are. So we have different levels, and the most basic level would be at least being work able. Yeah, so some very basic, I would say, skills that they would have to have practically, right? Being able to travel independently, because if I can't get down to the company, or for example, if I show you 1 to maybe 3 times and you're able to continue taking that same route every day, that is something that we'll look out for. Participate in every single activity or training that we have. That's something else we look out for. Being able to buy their own food. Yeah, because if I go to a company and I can't buy my lunch, I can't be expecting my co-worker to say like, hey,
help you buy every day, right?
Yes, so those are the very basic skills that they would need to first be work able to be ready for work. Another important aspect would be emotional regulation. So it's okay to feel stressed, and I think it's normal, but if I'm going to spend 7 hours crying at work because I'm stressed, I'm not going to get any work done. Yeah, but maybe if I cry for 5 minutes and I can get back to work, I finish the rest of my work, I hit my deadlines, that's something we can manage. It's something we can explain to the employer to say, just give her a space, she'll cry for 5 minutes, but she'll be back at work after that. Is that okay with you? Yeah.
Why did you start Trampoline?
So when we're looking at human potential itself, there's a zone, there's a current status. There's also what we call proximity zone of proximity. So meaning that with some help, you actually can reach that level.
And why specifically people with special needs?
Okay, it's very simple. If you can train someone who is very short to play basketball well, you can train someone who is very tall to play very well. Okay, so the concept is this. Because all of us can learn. When we look at a particular group, it's because they are most disadvantaged. All the environment that we work for are for the majority. So we look at why are they disadvantaged? Because probably it's the way they understand things differently, they communicate differently. So then in that case, how to bridge this gap so that their true potential can shine, right? So we're trying to bridge a gap in that sense.
Okay, let's get back. Jamie,
Nothing.
Why Trampoline? Why did you join Trampoline 2 years ago?
I guess people with special needs have always had a special place in my heart. And at previous jobs, I had to work a little bit more with, I would say, the stakeholders, so more of like the parents and the teachers, because I was in a school for people with special needs, but I didn't get to work directly with the students as much. Yeah, so I think definitely in Trampolene, I get to interact with them every day. I am journeying with them every single day, and I see the impact that I have on their lives. Yeah, so it really not just limited to their employment, but different aspects of it.
It's a more direct impact, and you do get to see, because you are journeying with them all the way through, right? Yeah, and how far do you take the journey?
Okay, so once they start the job, of course on the first day we will be there to get the onboarding done. Depending on how long it takes for them to settle in, we might have to go in a few more times at the start, so that they at least have a rough idea, okay, what's the benchmark, what's the expectation for your supervisors, who do you go to report to if supervisor is not around, who's the next person to look for. Yeah, so that would be, I think, at least the first month or their probation period, settling them in. Yeah, after that, when they have more or less gotten the hang of things, you must help them to understand confirmation doesn't mean that you have passed your that doesn't end there. So I think that's another trick that they need to, not another trick, but another area that we have to be very clear with, that passing your probation doesn't mean that you've
everything is okay.
Yeah, it's like you have to continue to improve.
That's also a fact for everyone, you know. You pass your probation, you think that I got it right. Like, everything is great, but
so I think
it's just the first step.
Yes. I guess for neurotypicals, we're a little bit more able to read the nuances. For example, somebody says like, I can't send you back today because I need to stay back. Our trainee might just say, oh, okay, bye. But the person might be implying like, oh, actually we all need to stay back. But it's very difficult to navigate, right? Because there's so many layers in between. So it's helping them read between the lines, which could be really quite difficult.
Yeah, but I guess it's like the tonality of things that people say as well. Yeah, like, you know, it could be a hint. And if you don't pick up that, sometimes I don't even pick things up, you know. So it is very hard. And how do you manage that? And how do you teach that?
The two ends. So we have to teach the trainee to say, okay, there's certain expectations at work. If you notice everybody else is staying back, clearly you stay back too, finish the OT, everybody goes back earlier. For the employer side, we tend to speak to the supervisors to say you have to be more specific. So not just in the deadlines, right? But instead of saying maybe you could stay back today, it's really I need you to stay back till 7 p.m. today, or I need you to stay back until this project is done. Once this project is done, we can go back.
Are most employers receptive to this sort of training towards the
I would say there is a spectrum as well. So some employers are naturally very direct. So in the engineering sector, they tend to be very direct.
Which is great.
So it actually works very well, because they'll just say, look, you're not meeting the deadline, or how come you didn't follow my SOP? So it's very clear, because my SOP is here, you skip this step, so that's wrong. In some organizations, I would say maybe areas like if they're in the human resource team,
Yeah.
then all the more because they had to treat people very gently,
Yes.
it might be harder, right? It's like, it's very hard for me to be direct. And that's when we explain that you are actually causing them more distress by being ambiguous or being vague. But when you're very direct to say, look, you're not meeting the deadline, you're not meeting this particular expectation, and you need to improve on that.
Yeah, I think when people try to walk on eggshells around other people, right? That's how it ends up being when you're so ambiguous, when you're so unclear. So okay, maybe let's talk about any stigmas that you see happen.
They would be afraid that telling or giving negative feedback would result in a violent or an explosive kind of reaction.
Right.
Yeah, so they tend to ask like, can I give this negative feedback? What if he or she acts out? What would be a good way to deliver the information? How would you handle it if the person really does get upset? Sometimes they may not even realize. They could be frowning, and the colleagues get very nervous, like, oh, they're frowning today, is something wrong? But when you go up to them and you say, hey, I noticed you're frowning, is everything okay? Some of them might actually tell you, oh, I didn't notice, I'm okay. It's just my natural expression. Or some might say, oh yeah, I'm a bit stressed, but I'll just take a walk and I'll come back and it'll be fine. Yeah, so pointing it out, I think that direct communication really helps. Yeah, but again, because everybody is very different, we usually try to explain that, okay, this is the particular trainee who's coming to your company. These are the things to look out for. These are the things that would help and things that would not be helpful. Yeah, but we always emphasize to them as well that ultimately you are a colleague. You're not their caregiver. You're not their friend. Yeah, so in the same way, we're all here to contribute. We're all here to make sure we're meeting certain expectations. Yeah, so the person's productivity, the person's ability to retain their job is not your responsibility, it's still their responsibility.
And another thing is about performance, interpreting of performance, right? So where there's one company that we went to, some group of the people has been feeding back that our guys are not performing. So what we do objectively, we will go and track. We say that can we look at the data objectively, right? Like punctuality, delivery, their quality and quantity. So we find that this one no problem. So when we go back to what in your impression is performance?
Issue, yeah.
When they do things and they keep walk around. Okay? Yeah.
Okay.
But does it affect their productivity? Is it a safety concern? No, but people walk around if you don't do work, right?
Yeah, it's assumption.
Yes.
It's the assumption where walking around, but that is the thing that helps them regulate their emotions.
Right. Yeah. So a lot of time their performance may be marked down because of this preconceived judgment.
Right.
So you have to use facts to dispute that. Yeah. Like example, some of them they self-talk.
Yeah.
That means we read out in our mind, we don't talk out. But it's difficult for them, so they read out. So in that sense, people may think that they are always very anxious, but they are not.
Yeah.
They just need to read it out. So if it disturbs a person, we say that maybe you excuse yourself, find a corner, and then if you need to go into the deep thought, right, and read out, right, then you do that.
Yeah, but I think, okay, for me, I do that also to help me focus, because sometimes, you have voices in your head sometimes that you are thinking about so many things and your head is so cluttered, and reading out loud actually helps you focus. And that's for me. That's for me.
For some of them, it's the way they work. Yeah.
So if I don't have a diagnosis and I come in and I just say I need help, I think I might be somewhere on the spectrum. And so you just dive right into it, you assess them based on, and how does that assessment happen? Maybe you can walk me through like the process of that journey.
Sure. There are two parts to the assessment. So typically we start off by just asking some questions to get to know them a little bit better. Find out a little bit about what I was talking about before, like how they travel from one place to another, any particular challenges that they might face in their previous jobs or challenges in life, strengths that they have, right? So their interests, things that they did in school, what were they good at when they were in school, or their hobbies as well. That would be the getting to know them section. And then we also have a more hands-on kind of task. It's not so much a test. We always emphasize that because I think the term assessment might sound very intimidating. Yeah, so we say assessment doesn't mean that we're testing. Yes, so we always thought that it's not a test. It's just to get to know you better and find out where your strengths lie and what are some challenges you might face. Yeah, so the things that we look at are not actually their answers, but how they go through the process and how they get there. If you're keen, we can try one example together with you.
Did you hear the bird chirping and the
Yes, I did. I hear everything, even the waves.
For some of them, right, when they hear the airplane flies,
Yeah.
they cannot hear.
Oh yes.
They only can
Yes,
focus
yes.
on.
So I'm a hypersensitive human,
Yeah.
I believe. So when, like say in a restaurant setting, right?
When there's conversation happening at the table that's right next to me, I cannot hear the person. So if that person's proximity or that volume is a bit louder, I cannot hear this person in front of me.
Especially when there's no space.
This is actually a test on executive function.
Okay.
Yeah, so there are 3 different activities here.
So your fate depends on this.
Okay.
So
It's a
first
very
you
big
have to,
stack. So I've just arranged 3 categories, right? These are just steps. Okay, 3, 4. This will be somewhere in the middle. Head to airport. Okay, I noticed something. This is family. I'm meeting friends. Meeting my friends.
Start to see the keywords.
Yeah. So, okay, but I can set a date and time for. Okay, never mind. I'll leave that there first. Okay, let me just double check. Because this side, okay, we need to set a date. So, I am guessing this one comes to this side. I'm guessing.
yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so actually that really is something that we look out for, whether you do spot the keyword.
You notice, right?
Yes.
Because these two were a bit confusing
Yeah.
because of the nature of it is all food, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but this one is quite clear cut. This is just the steps. Yeah, the flight one, the travelling one is quite clear cut. These two, I was a bit confused at first, I'm not gonna lie. Because when I look at inform everyone of the dinner, right? Then what really confused me was the dinner location and then cooking for my family. So if I'm cooking, am I going somewhere else?
Yes.
Ah.
Yeah, so as you have pointed out, that is something that will confuse
Yeah.
our assessees. Yeah, but actually what you have walked us through, like your thought process, that is what we'll be looking out for.
Yeah, like
Yes.
the way they. Yeah.
Yeah, so how
okay.
do you categorize? What are the keywords that you look out for that tell you, oh, actually these 2 things are different tasks, or these 2 things are
so
different
if they
categories?
don't read it out, you will ask them how they.
Yes,
you'll
so
break
we
it
will
down
actually
for them.
prompt them. Yeah.
And how long does one session like that take?
The entire assessment is about an hour, but that includes the questions and the hands-on activities. And this is just one of the activities. Yeah, so a lot of executive functioning skills that go into this entire process. So this is one of my favorite assessment activities because you get to draw a lot of things.
Do you want to do
I think
another?
it might be very painful for you because it's an admin kind.
Okay, what is this? Comparing reports. So I just read
Yeah, maybe you can do number 1 and 2. I think number
Okay.
2 will be quite painful.
number 1. Huh? Okay, wait, let me reread this. This is very hard.
It's not about the accuracy of your answer, it's the thought process that goes behind.
Oh wow, that was actually very fun. Do we have time? Do we have time to do the next one? I'm having so much fun.
I love
with
that you're
this.
having fun.
I'm actually having fun.
There are 4 altogether.
Oh, this is so long! Oh no! What have I walked into? Okay. Ayo, this is very long. Okay, can I take back what I said? This is very long. I take back what I said. What are some challenges that you face? I'm guessing it ranges, right? Because your job is so diverse. So maybe what's the hardest thing you've had to do? The hardest.
I would say actually managing the stakeholders is the most difficult
Yeah.
part because there's so many people involved, right? As much as I would love to just work with a client, that's impossible because so many people are in their lives. So getting the buy-in from the client is fun, but we also have to manage the employers, right? When they run to you and say, hey, how come I've explained this 20 times to your trainee and they still can't understand it? Or they're just not meeting productivity standards. Or even a question like, oh, she's still talking to herself, why? Yeah, so these are the kinds of questions that we have to answer. For their parents as well, they'll be very concerned. So, because every parent wants a very safe, a very kind or nurturing environment for their child, but we also have to, I suppose, give a reality check to the parents to say, yes, that is ideal. We do want an environment that is inclusive, an environment that allows your child to contribute, but at the same time, can you think as an employer or think from the shoes of the employer? Some of them are employers themselves. So we'll actually ask them, if you were the employer, how would you speak to your child? And some are very honest, like, I will fire him. When they can see from both the employer's perspective and their own perspective, then it becomes easier to manage the case, because they get it like, okay, while yes, it's important that people are kind to my child also has to be kind to other people. Or my child has to be making sure that I'm contributing, I am meeting my productivity levels, I am capturing requirements correctly. Then I can keep the job in the same way that I'm expected by my own employer to keep the job. Yeah. They also turn to us when they are feeling stressed. So sometimes they could call in a meeting, for example. I ever had 20 calls from a single trainee because he was very stressed that he happened to tear off a bit of the wall when he pulled out a piece of Velcro. So he was very worried. He was like, oh, I'm going to get punished. So this is another issue that they face, right? Problem size, seeing the problem size. So for him, this is like problem level 100 because I'm going to get fired because I broke the wall, for example. But then when you process it with them, you're like, okay, if we actually look at the real problem size, is it a problem size 5? If you say, yes, I own up to this, I did do it, but how can I help to repair the wall? Yeah. So it's sometimes anticipating the kind of responses that I might get. And when I cannot anticipate them and a problem happens, then how do I respond in a manner that is helpful to the trainee and helpful to the company at the same time?
Yeah, so what are your hopes and dreams for this community?
For me, it's actually about everyone that I come in touch with, including a job coach. We also tell them that you must believe that you can develop. If not, right, how are you going to train someone else? And you have to make plans for yourself. What are the skill set, competency? So the message to all that come into it, actually everyone has a lot of potential. But because we may not explore ways and means to achieve higher than what we set for ourselves, therefore we tend to accept that that's our upper limit. So once you change your perspective and say, what else can I do? Who else can help me? By asking those questions and what do I need to do to take on this journey to try? How do I mitigate the risk that maybe I pay a fee but nothing comes about? So once they go through this question and they start to plan, I think they start to see that each and every one of us can actually go higher.
So finally, what is the ripple effect that Trampolene has in our community?
I would say even on the employer or on the employer end, when they start getting used to it, because a lot of them have that fear. It's a fear of the unknown, right? When I don't know a person, I am scared of what I do not know. But then once they come into the company, they're like, oh, they're really good at their work, or they are even more punctual than my neurotypicals. They show up more often. They don't give me as many MCs. Yeah, and that's when they recognize the value, they recognize the strength.
So you're breaking down that barrier for the employers.
I would say that is one effect. When we bring them out on Saturdays, for example, or we bring them out into the community when they do their volunteer work, they go out into the supermarkets or they exercise. I think that is also bringing their awareness to the community to say, hey, they can be part of the community as well. They don't just mix around with, it's not just within the group of people with special needs, but with neurotypicals, just as we will make friends with anybody else. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for spending so much time with us by the beach. And it's a little bit warm, it's a little bit hot today, but the sun is setting. Yeah, and thank you for joining us on Quiet Ripples. We're airing every Wednesday in October. Don't forget to catch us. And once again, this is Trampolene, Francis and Jamie.
Hello.
So if you want to look out for them, volunteer, or if you just want to check them out on Facebook, or maybe you want to have a chat with them, this is where you can look for them. We're going to point out the URL just right here. There'll be a URL appearing, so you can point if you want. This is your URL. And thank you once again for joining us at Quiet Ripples, and we'll see you next week. Bye!
Bye!